This is video number 4 of the 6-part series to help you make Toby Lischko's Civil War sampler straight from the pages of Love of Quilting magazine. Now, all the instructions are in Love of Quilting, but we thought these videos might help you to make the quilt. Also, in the instructions, I'm going to give you some little tips to help you along. A lot of these blocks are very repetitive, and there are other ways to do things or ways that might help you to get better results. So those are the kinds of things I'm going to show you in the video. Now, in this video, we are in the March-April issue of the magazine, so this is the second part of the 3-part instructions for the Civil War sampler. It started in January-February 2011, we're in March-April 2011 with this video, and then we're going to be it will finish in May-June 2011, Fons and Porter's Love of Quilting. We're making, in the March-April issue, we've made 5 blocks. I've already done a video for the first 3, and now I'm going to do a video to show you the 4 T's block and also Grandmother's Choice block. You know, there are many ways to make half-square triangles, and the instructions show you one way, but I thought I'd show you a different way. In this quilt, there are a lot of half-square triangles, and in this month we're using them in several places, including the first block, Peace Star block. There are many ways to do a lot of things, like the half-square triangles and even the flying geese, though I showed you already how to make those. In the next video, I'm going to show you another way. It's good to try these different ways because then you can find your favorite. So what I wanted to show you was that the way that we would have done this, and we've done this previously in these videos, in this quilt, and the way it's instructed, you cut your squares and then you cut them in half to make your triangles, and you put the triangles together. But in this case, I want to show you an alternative method using a nifty little tool. The tool is called 1/4" seam markers, and they come 2 to a pack. One's longer than the other. I'm going to use the shorter one for this because this block is only just a little under 4 inches. And it just happens to have this end is at a right angle, and so you butt that up against one corner of your square, and then there's this line down the center, and you have that match that point, and then you take your favorite marking tool, and I really like these Fons and Porter chalk pencil. They're not crumbly like a pencil, and so they mark really well. You're not fighting it. See how well that marks? Now what this has done is, and you'll see when I sew it, but what you would have done per the instructions is cut from point to point. So you would have cut on that yellow line, and then when you stitched your 1/4" seam, you would have stitched on those white lines. So instead what we're going to do is stitch and then cut. And what that does is, this cut doesn't matter anymore. Now you've made more sure, at least in my estimation and the way I sew, that you're stitching on the correct line in the correct place. So now we get one of our other squares. I'm doing the teal and the yellow, and match them up, and we'll go over to the sewing machine and sew them. Okay, so I'm just lowering my presser foot, and I'm just going to stitch along the one chalk mark line. And then I'm going to stitch along the other. Yes, I like to sew fast. And then now we're going to cut in between those 2 marked lines. Now, to be honest with you, it doesn't matter one iota where you cut this because you've already sewn your seam. But for neatness sake, it's always good to stick with your 1/4" seam allowance. So, whoops, so I'm going to use my little ruler and line up the 1/4" line, oops, and cut those 2 pieces. And now all I do is press the seam allowances open, and I will have 2 half-square triangles all ready to sew into my quilt. You know, I like to get my quilts done as quickly as possible, maybe more so than the next guy because I always have deadlines. But neatness really counts. It really matters in the finished product. And so one of the things to take care of, as I've mentioned before, is these little dog ears, because they get in the way of things and cause bumps and get in the way of your sewing. So that's something you always want to do, whether you use your handy-dandy rotor cutter or you use your scissors. You want to get rid of those dog ears. But did you know that there is a way to get rid of those dog ears before you even sew them? And it also helps you to line up your triangles when you're sewing them together. Let me show you. I have two tools to show you. The first one is by Fons and Porter. It's called the triangle trimmer. It comes in a package that looks like this, and there's one for quarter square triangles and this one's for half square triangles. And since I'm making half square triangles, that's the one I'm going to use. Now, so I said I'm going to get rid of the dog ears preventatively. Well, that's exactly what this tool does. All you do is line up, and this one just about happens to match exactly the size of a triangle, but you match up your raw edges along both of these edges, and then that leaves your little point, which you then trim off. And you do the same thing on the other end, and then you have your half square triangle ready to be sewn to the other to make a square. Now on this yellow one, I'm going to show you how to use the prep tool. And this tool is made by Guidelines for Quilting. My friend Tom Brady from the from the New England Patriots. John Brady and his wife Ritzko created this and marketed it, and they're quite a team. In fact, you can go to the website and see how to use all their tools. They're amazing. But this is kind of the same principle, only there are many more uses for this tool. These little places here are raised, this gold part, and all you do is you run it along, just sort of pull it down, and it will stop on the fabric, these two pieces, exactly holding the point right where you need to cut. And so you can do, then it flips over, so then you can do the other one the same way. And then as you'll see, these two guys are ready to be sewn together. We already have those blunt edges, and actually I had already marked that stitching line because I goofed and did it in blue, so I retaped, and that stitching line goes exactly from that corner to that corner, so that proves that both of these tools are absolutely perfect for this. So this is the Fons and Porter Flying Geese ruler, and it really is the trick. Now the instructions that we're using for our quilt, you would have to cut things differently, but I just want you to know about this since we have so many geese in here and we use geese so much in quilting. This is what comes with the ruler, and it's really great instructions. I mean, you can just look at the pictures and kind of figure it out. But what's wonderful about this ruler is that everything that you need is right on this ruler, and that is the way all the Fons and Porter rulers are. They give you everything you need to know. So for this, right here, if you can see that at all, this side is for making the background of the geese, so where'd mine go? This part, which is yellow on this one. And so I'm going to use that as blue. Mine's going to be blue. So I want my finished whole flying geese to be 3 by 6. So all of the measurements are built into this ruler. Since it wants to be 3 by 6, right here, let's see if I can show you, 3 by 6. If I want it finished size 3 by 6, it has a 3.5 inches right there, so I've cut my strips 3.5 inches. So that's the same for both my background and also for the other part of the goose, which we'll get to also. So then all I do is line up this yellow line at the 3 inch by 6 inch, because that's the finished size that I want. And then see this little nip? That's really the seam allowance that comes off. And that all works when you actually do your sewing. You'll see how that works. And then I just cut across both sides of the ruler. And there's my first piece. And then I just keep cutting like that. I can flip my ruler and cut again over here and line up, and I'll just keep cutting like that till I have as many as I need. Now for the other part of the flying geese, I'm going to use the yellow, as I had said, and what I do is I flip my ruler over to this part. See, that's the shape that you want. And again, here is the 3 by 6. It tells me right there that that's the 3 by 6. And on this line, it's too small for you to see with the camera right there, but 3.5 inches is what I was supposed to cut my strips, which I did. And then also at the top, there's a little teeny black triangle that tells you that, yes, that little nip comes off at the top. And once again, you just cut. And then you have one of these guys. So now you have all the pieces that you need to put your flying geese together. Just to get it closer so you can see, there's that 3 inch by 6 inch, and then over here on that black line it says 3.5 inches. So that's the size to cut your strip, and it tells you right here how all that works. And here's that little black nip, and here's the yellow one. So everything you need is right here on this ruler. It's pretty amazing. And now what you have is you have the pieces that you need to put your flying geese together. And what you'll do is you'll cut this one first, and notice how now that is totally cut off and perfect. So you're stitching right from here down to here. So when you get your 1/4 inch, that's going to be perfect, and then you'll add your other piece. Now, isn't that easy? There you go. You've completed 11 blocks of the Civil War sampler. Now, our next installment will be with the May-June issue of Fons and Porter's Love of Quilting. We've completed 4 videos, so now the last 2 will be in concert with that issue of the magazine. Be sure to look for it either in your mailbox, at your local quilt store, at your grocery store, or if you can't find it in any of those places, go to fonsandporter.com. Look for magazines and you'll see all the back issues there. So we'll see you next time for video number 5 in this series of Toby Lischko's Civil War Sampler.